In every country in the world, cola dominates. We feel that we have to plant our flag everywhere, even before the Christians arrive. Cola's destiny is to inherit the earth.
There are 180,000 vehicles delivering Coke throughout the world every day. That sounds like a lot, but there are still cultures whose main beverage is, say, water.
What do you call it, Jim? Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola, yeah. What is Coca-Cola, yeah? Hey, no. Hey. Am I block him? You can throw more over him. Am I block me, huh? You pilih mo siya, Wanem. Pilih mo siya, Wanem. Kiss him now.
Coca-Cola is so successful, it can afford to sell its drink at very little profit, for a while. There will come a day when young Tuaregs are spending money, and Coke wants to make sure they've acquired a taste for the real thing.
Elisa, à quel endroit tu t'approvisionnes en coca?
Agadez.
Agadez?
Oui.
Et c'est combien d'heures de voiture à Agadez? Tu préfères le thé ou le coca?
In Atlanta, Georgia, Coca-Cola and the Statue of Liberty celebrate their centennials. Over the century, both have become world symbols of freedom and the American dream. But the man who is head of the company wants to make Coca-Cola more than just the world's most successful brand of all time.
Ladies and gentlemen, the chairman of the board and chief executive officer of the Coca-Cola Company, Roberto C. Goizueta.
Right now, at this point in time in the United States, people consume more soft drinks than any other liquid, including ordinary tap water. If we take full advantage of our opportunities, someday, not too many years into our second century, we will see the same wave catching on in market after market, until eventually the #1 beverage on earth will not be tea or coffee or wine or beer. It will be soft drinks, our soft drinks.
By 1996, Goizueta's dream is on schedule. Coke is the #1 soft drink in the world. Coffee, tea, and wine are the company's next targets. This year, Coke is pouring millions of dollars into the Olympics to be held in Atlanta. And at the torch rally leading up to the Games, the Coke logo is as visible as the Olympic rings.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. Coca-Cola is honored to be the presenter of the 1996 Olympic Torch Relay because it allows us, together with the Atlantic Committee for the Olympic Games, share in the Olympic spirit with more people than ever before. And that's what you're seeing here tonight. sharing of community, which is what the Olympics truly represent.
Since the 4th century, the Chinese have been cultivating tea. Tea is as important to them as wine is to the French. But if the Coca-Cola Company has its way, all that will soon change. Coca-Cola isn't new to China. It first comes to Shanghai in the late 20s. Then, when Mao Zedong comes to power, he denounces Coke as the opiate of the running capitalist dogs and bans it. But Mao's Little Red Book is no match for Coca-Cola. And in 1978, after the chairman dies, the company quickly returns.
The reports are true. Coca-Cola has reached China. But the taste which one Chinese describes as like Chinese medicine may take a while to catch on.
At Coca-Cola, Roberto Goizueta is undeterred. There are 1 billion tea drinkers in China who consume less than 1 Coke a year. That's the biggest untapped market in the world. If Goizueta wants a model for China, he just has to go down the road to Rome, Georgia. The average family in this American town consumes 3,200 bottles of Coke a year. Coke would love to sell every Chinese each year what the Rome Georgians drink in just 1 day. But in China, there's a problem brewing that even for Coke is a formidable challenge.
In Asia, Coca-Cola faces tea cultures. There, the drinking of tea is a serious problem to them because every time someone drinks a cup of tea, they're not drinking a bottle of Coke. So that the aim for Coke is selling beverages, but to do that, they must make war on other beverages, and that engages them in an inadvertent cultural war, which will look very much like a new form of imperialism.
The theme of this painting is drinkable. Chinese people drink tea, and foreigners drink cola or something like that. Chinese tea culture is deeply rooted and integrated with all other forms of Chinese arts. Chinese calligraphy, Chinese painting, Chinese Peking opera. It doesn't matter what the song is, the essence is its lingering charm, and this is mingled with tea.
To reach its target, the Coca-Cola Company is investing $500 million and building 23 bottling plants across China. By the mid-90s, parts of China at least are within an arm's length of desire. That's the easy part. The hard part is changing a daily ritual that has persisted for centuries.
What Coca-Cola is reaching for in China is what the British system was reaching for in trying to get the British working class to become tea drinkers. It's that kind of thing. They're trying to make a change in the schedules of their day, in their habits at home, in their domestic patterns. And once they did that, of course, tea spread throughout the whole society.
To spread its message, Coca-Cola is using the same marketing techniques banned during the Cultural Revolution. And it's targeting the part of China to whom Cultural Revolution means something quite different today. The kids.
I would say the influence comes from the West, from television, from MTV, and especially from breakdancing. We've seen a lot of it. Now in China, disco reflects young people's love and admiration for culture.
As elsewhere, many Chinese youth buy into the idea that you can achieve happiness by consumption. That's a new idea for the Chinese. But then, it once was for the folks in Rome, Georgia, too. France, they have another idea. You can achieve happiness only in liberty. In the same year John Pemberton creates Coca-Cola, the French give the United States a statue dedicated to this belief. A half-century later, American troops transform the symbol into deed. They help liberate France. But with the American troops comes an invasion of a different kind. This time it's not an army, but a dark and fizzy drink. And it's threatening two of the things the French value most, wine and pride.
The Coca-Cola affair enters just after the Second World War and becomes a cause célèbre. The whole affair of what was called Coca-Colanization, that is, the necessity that some French felt of resisting the entry of Coca-Cola into the French market. Now remember that at this point the French have already absorbed jazz, they've absorbed Hollywood movies, they've absorbed Reader's Digest. All these things were coming at the same time. So Coca-Cola represents the rising menace of American mass culture. At that point, they hold up the notion that wine, the national beverage, is absolutely crucial to French identity. That is, France can be defined less by language, less by history, less by religion, but it can be defined by its national beverage. And where Coca-Cola is coming in is actually calling into question France's cultural identity.
Sharing a bed with a shapely American bottle is just too much. The now raucous debate goes all the way to the French Chamber of Deputies. The culture minister accuses Coke of being addictive. He introduces a bill to ban it.
Meanwhile, the Coca-Cola company comes in force to fight this. The Minister of Finance, the Prime Minister, the American ambassador in Paris were all involved in quieting this issue. And ultimately, Coca-Cola wins the battle. The French back away from this after 1950. The ban is never implemented, and Coca-Cola comes to France irrespective of the Great Affair.
"30 years later, France once again feels imperiled by Coke. It's hard to know if that's a commentary on Coca-Cola or the fact that Coke and America are now indistinguishable.
The Coca-Cola metaphor was used in the 80s by the New Right in France, who thought Coca-Cola was more dangerous than the Red Army, because it colonized people's minds. It was a rejection of the US as a consumer society, an imperialistic consumer society.
Much of France still believes the country's soul is in its vineyards. But grapes slowly ripening on the vine belong to a time which, even in France, is fast disappearing.
France is changing, and France is changing for the worst culinarily. I don't think there's any doubt that French cuisine is going downhill, and that the reason for it is the impact of a different kind of social and economic system on France. And it has something to do with the relationship between food and family. In the United States, we've cracked the relationship between food and family. People no longer eat a lot of their meals together. The French still think you eat with your kinspeople.
For me, wine is a subject of conversation and appreciation. You don't just drink it down and it's over. No. Wine is culture. Coca-Cola was the devil's drink. It is not refined. You see, for a gourmet, Coca-Cola is always the same. However, there are thousands of different wines. They are subtle, they have texture, body, flavor. These things you don't have in Coca-Cola. One can drink idiotic drinks stupidly, but a gourmet drinks intelligently, subtle drinks.
Despite their passionate protests, many French seem to have thrown in the serviette. Cokes and hamburgers often take the place of wine, French cuisine, and a family meal. And the only invading Red Army are the Coke trucks delivering a taste of American culture to France every day. In America, cuisine occupies a different place in the national landscape. The crowning achievement may be the humble burger, greasy fries, and a Coke to go. Just don't tell a real American you got a problem with that.
Coca-Cola, Kentucky Fried Chicken, McDonald's, they all work with each other. What do McDonald's have inside their restaurants? Coke, Pepsi, what is it? You know, see, I don't even want to use the word D-I-C-K. They do each other up the ass. They work with the governments, corporations, Coca-Cola, Pepsi, multinational, transnationals. They all work with each other. They all destroy the earth.
Wrong. And you're going to blame McDonald's for serving good hamburgers. I'm eating right now a Big Mac. You look unhealthy. You don't look like you can walk. You look like you have AIDS. I think you're totally incorrect. Why are you coming on McDonald's? And I'm not representing McDonald's, but I grew up on McDonald's. I'm American.
Sorry, so did I. I don't do it anymore. I was on the other side of the fence.
Okay, but I grew up on McDonald's.
You know what that is? That's a drug addiction.
You know what it is?
You're a drug addict.
It's a good Big Mac. That's what the hell it is.
It's a drug addict, man.
It's a good Big Mac.
You know, when we look at the immense global popularity of American products, you know, one of the questions is why? Part of the answer is we're selling America, and America as a product is a pretty impressive product. You know, it is a product that combines opportunity and some, at least, more social justice than a lot of countries have, and it represents a lot of pretty good things, you know, that you and I think most people would cherish. The other side is the discovery Americans made that if you sell to the 12-year-old, and thus to the 12-year-old in every human being around the world, you're going to have a much easier time than selling to the 30-year-old or the 50-year-old.
Coke's appeal is to youth. Nobody does it better. And the best thing is, at least from Coke's point of view, kids everywhere are starting to speak the same language.
Hi.
Hi.
What can I get for you?
Full Coca-Cola.
Oh, okay, sure.
It can be argued that Coke, in a certain sense, represents the American dream because it's one of the most powerful symbols of our society and its achievements. It has become the epitome of what it is to be American, and therefore people who consume it feel that they are in some way taking part. They are consuming part of us. If you want to, you could call it a kind of symbolic cannibalism because they're consuming something we produced and becoming like us by virtue of it.
In Mexico, unlike France and China, the consumption of cola meets little resistance. In some towns, it even has powers that Coke and Pepsi executives never dreamed of.
In Chamula,
Coca-Cola has become a part of most rituals, including the healing ritual of the shamans and the purifications that they used to do with cacao. it's had the most impact on indigenous communities where its influence has been so great that it's become a holy water.
For generations, the Mayans used their own home-brewed posh to help them get in touch with their maker. Then gradually, cola replaces liquor. Something about the dark liquid, the green bottle, the fizz. Many Mayans believe it brings them closer to heaven, which suits the local bottlers just fine.
Coca-Cola and Pepsi-Cola are used as ritual objects, so they're consumed in large quantities. Those who provide it get rich quick and acquire more and more power. The political parties in power manipulated this by using the influence that the local political leaders had acquired from Coca-Cola or Pepsi-Cola to create divisions in towns that were highly unified, towns that had resisted the attacks of a dominant and overbearing civilization for hundreds of years.
When we talk about the power of multinational corporations like PepsiCo and the Coca-Cola Company around the world, there's a tendency to think in political terms they don't really have much power because, after all, how many tanks does Coca-Cola have? How many troops can PepsiCo put in the field? But of course, modern power is not measured simply by hard power. It's measured in soft terms. The capacity to influence culture, the capacity to manipulate human psychology and human needs, the capacity to dominate a market. Then corporations, arguably, are among the most powerful entities in the modern world, in terms of soft power at least, perhaps a good deal more powerful than nation states.
With a market value of $150 billion, the Coca-Cola Company is one of the world's most powerful corporations. From its headquarters in Atlanta, the company directs an empire of independent franchise holders, united under the most recognized brand name on earth. These independent bottlers purchase Coke concentrate, then bottle the drink locally. Coca-Cola always maintains it's just selling soft drinks and doesn't interfere with local politics. Sometimes this policy works. Sometimes it gets Coca-Cola into serious trouble.
By the late 1970s, Coca-Cola ran into a problem which they really didn't want to deal with in Atlanta. Down in Guatemala City, some of their unionized employees who were trying to start a union, began to be murdered.
In Guatemala, the independent bottling operation is managed by a Texan named John Trotter. Trotter does get involved with local politics, and there are three things he can't tolerate: Pepsi, communists, and unions.
His own employees in the Guatemala City plant tried to unionize, and he told them not to do this, that this was communistic. He blamed it on the Pepsi people causing the problem. There was an enormous furor about this internationally, and the people at the headquarters of Coca-Cola at first refused to get involved because they said, look, this is an independent bottling plant. We can't tell them what to do, and there's no evidence that they're doing anything wrong.
Sporadic violence escalates, more workers are killed, and still the Coca-Cola Company refuses to act.
Finally, a nun who had Coca-Cola stock went to one of Coke's annual meetings, and with her she brought the head of the union, named Israel Marquez, and he related to them what was going on. And he said, in Guatemala, the name Coca-Cola means murder.
Religious investors took labor organizers from Guatemala with us to the stockholders' meetings of Coca-Cola. We spoke to the stockholders and to the board and to the management. These labor leaders told their story and told about the fear that they and their colleagues faced every day, the fear of being disappeared or killed. While they were speaking, the chairman of the board of Coca-Cola, Paul Austin, smoked a cigarette and just put up with the fact that we were testifying at the stockholders meeting. It was a kind of a shocking disregard for the very powerful story these labor organizers were telling.
It wasn't until Roberto Goizueta came in 1981 that the situation was finally resolved. They never did prove conclusively that the man in charge of the plant had been ordering these murders, but they did help to buy him out. The company provided the money to help a Mexican bottler buy him out, and the murders stopped.
Burma is one of the few countries in the world that Coca-Cola has abandoned to its rival, Pepsi. Coca-Cola has avoided the country because of Burma's human rights violations. It doesn't want to make the same mistake it made in Guatemala. After several years, the attacks against PepsiCo are becoming an embarrassment.
Generation X is dumping the choice of a new generation. UW students and the Free Burma Coalition held a rally to boycott Pepsi this morning. The United Nations ranks Burma's military government as one of the world's top human rights violators. Protesters want Pepsi to stop production, and Pepsi says they can do more good in Burma than it would do by leaving.
It becomes convenient for many companies to say that a human rights demand is a political demand, and therefore they are not a political entity. They're a commercial entity. The reality is much more blurred, however. Business decisions have political implications. Business decisions impact human rights. One of the dilemmas we face with Pepsi-Cola is the company consistently hides behind the myth that in Burma, by doing business there, they're automatically going to make a contribution to economic growth and to democracy. Faced with mounting evidence that, of course, there's tremendous repression in Burma.
I have a different philosophy. I think that you will open up the society. You have a better chance of opening it up by communicating, by having tourists, cultural exchanges, business people going back and forth, more than you will by putting an iron fence around. As people get more money, more industry comes in, more people travel back and forth, the human rights problems disappear.
But the human rights problems in Burma don't disappear, and eventually PepsiCo decides to pull out. Human rights are also an issue in China. Both Coca-Cola and PepsiCo, as well as many other foreign corporations, are heavily invested in China in the early 90s. Then, almost overnight, a city square called Tiananmen becomes the birthplace of a dream that turns into a nightmare.
I think we can fairly say that the young people engaged in the initial moments of rebellion craved real freedom. But without question, they were also part of a worldwide movement of young people that had been seduced by the style of life of the West. So I think we have to say that the revolutions had dual purposes. They had civil and political liberty as their aim, but they also had consumer freedom and a lifestyle, shopping, in mind. But if we think that democracy is nothing but the right to shop, then I think we can say that China today is the world's greatest democracy. To that degree, the students in Tiananmen Square have been betrayed by their own yearnings to be consumers as well as citizens.
My dream, I think, is make money to the degree that I don't have to worry about money. I don't ever need to think of money. So that's my dream. I think the dream is you can do anything you want. This point don't need to argue because it's a basic instinct. Basic instinct. I think in this society, in nowadays world, if you want to do something you like, without any limitation or something like this, you should have to money. I don't worry about the Americanization.
Because you already have your own ideas. You have already grown up, but to the kids, we have the task to teach them something about our culture.
We should absorb something good from other cultures.
Yeah.
So the Pepsi, for example, I think okay, if the young people will taste it good, they can have it.
It did bring something other than drink itself into China.
Right.
So if you like it, you will say, hey, he brings something new. But if you don't like it, oh, it's a cultural invasion.
Right, right, yeah.
It's Children's Day in Shanghai, the day when future generations are celebrated and taught about Chinese traditions. Since Tiananmen Square, much has happened in China. The dissidents have been forced underground, and there has been a revolution Mao never dreamed of. Now, the only visible conflict is between the two American cola companies, jostling for the biggest market in the world.
In the market, the competition between Pepsi and Coca-Cola is very intense. It's there every day. I think of Coca-Cola as my opponent, like in the war. It's my enemy. I want to wipe it out.
Do you think Pepsi will ever replace Chinese tea?
That's impossible.
Right now, the average consumption in China is a mere 7 soft drinks per person a year, compared to over 840 in the United States. Even as the older generations continue to revere tea, China, with about 400 million young people, has become the next battlefield in the cola wars. But with a market the size of China, the two giants, Coke and Pepsi, will not be alone for long. There are other fish in the sea.
For years, you've been fed the same old line, that there are only 2 great-tasting colas to choose from. Hey, you don't have to swallow that.
What happens in the 1980s is private label and the growth of private label in supermarkets. Then a gentleman called Dave Nicol arrived on the scene in Canada. And what he did is he said, if I make my private label products better quality and do a professional branding job with them, maybe I can carve out some of this large soft drink market.
What we are selling is value.
Value is a combination of both price and quality. And the samurai consumer today is not interested in polar bears drinking Coca-Cola. They are interested in going into a store and buying a case, a product that is either superior or equal to the national brands for $2 or $3 less. That's what they're after, and that's where the world is at today, and that's why Coke and Pepsi are passé.
So he contacted a company called Cop Beverages, who purchased the old RC Cola capability, reformulated it, and started promoting what became known in Canada as President's Choice Cola.
Coca-Cola and Pepsi-Cola ignored us for 2 or 3 years, and as a result, over the last 3 years, both of them have lost hundreds of millions of dollars.
In fact, 2 years ago, in Canada, it became so powerful that private label supply from Cop Beverages took over as the second largest cola company in Canada.
They say the secret formula to Virgin Cola is so secret that even the man that invented it doesn't know what it is.
After his Canadian success, Nickel teams up with a British partner, Richard Branson, to create Virgin Cola, and Coca-Cola explodes.
Coca-Cola was really, it's sort of like, used to be run like the Masters golf tournament, you know, an old Southern tradition, gentlemen. But today, gee, I think Boss Woodruff would really be annoyed because it's more like run like the evil empire. When Virgin came out in England with their Virgin Cola, Richard Branson, they ran full-page ads right across the country, which said, if somebody tells you that they've got a product that tastes like Coca-Cola, don't buy it.
So, you've been drinking the same brand of cola for years. When along comes Virgin Cola. Yeah, Virgin Cola. Try dabbing a little bit behind your ears. You'll find it makes you
irresistible, so the opposite say.
Virgin Cola is an immediate hit in England. A year later, Branson brings his cola across the Atlantic. When Branson arrives in the Big Apple, Coca-Cola and Pepsi own most of the American market. Dave Nickel couldn't be happier. With every Virgin Branson sells, Nickel gets a little richer.
And the great thing about Richard is he gets all of this publicity and pays for just none of it.
Gentlemen, this way, please.
Avoiding much of the enormous cost of marketing is how Nickel and Branson think they can undercut the big boys. Let Coke and Pepsi create the desire, then go in at a cheaper price.
Pepsi, Coco, sorry.
In most of the other businesses we're in, there are hundreds of competitors. I mean, it's really quite strange that in this enormous business, maybe the biggest business in the world, that there are only really 2 players in the soft drinks business. So I think there's plenty of room for a third.
At the Ritz-Carlton in Montreal, a group of wine tasters are gathered. In a blind taste test, they will select the finest cola amongst the 3 top vintages in Canada. Right now, they are tasting cola number 1.
The citrus notes were coming off for sure. You know, with the lime, maybe a touch of lemon.
It's quite light in color. It's not very, very deep. A little bit of spice in it. First nose is a little bit spicy. You smell also caramel inside.
Yeah, my baby, after you have only sugar in the mouth.
Cola number 2.
Number 1 was very cinnamon in the mouth. This one is more syrupy, although the bubble in the mouth is a little bit more aggressive than the first one. Lasts a little longer.
I would rather have the second one to refresh myself. The first one for me is flat.
I prefer the second one.
Yes?
Cola number 3.
This particular can, all the gas was lost when you opened it.
Yeah, I think so. The flavor of the lemon is only, I would say, volatile.
Yeah, I think the CO2 did bring out the citrus. When the CO2 was gone, there was not much in the mouth. So I think my favorite choice, if there can be a favorite choice, would be number 2 for its complexity.
Et voilà, le grand moment.
Voilà, so number 1 now. Let's see if we were right. Pepsi. Pepsi, number 1. So, number 2 now.
And the winner is...
President's choice. President's choice.
President's choice. So why pay more? Le deuxième, c'était mon préféré.
Guess what the third one is?
And the suspense for number 3 is, of course,
Coca-Cola.
Coca-Cola.
Amongst the 3 colas, number 2 is the unanimous choice. Although President's Choice wins the taste test, it takes more than taste to win in the cola wars. Coca-Cola has spent a century building up its brand name and continues to pour billions into marketing and distribution.
Think about what a soft drink is. A soft drink is something that refreshes you. You don't want to wait to be refreshed. I'm thirsty, I feel like a drink, is the process. So the soft drink company's goal has been to have either Coke or Pepsi anywhere where you're likely to feel thirsty. And neither of the soft drink companies will be happy until that's true, until I can reach right now, as part of the camera, there's a soft drink dispenser attached to the camera so I can reach and have a Pepsi or a Coke right now.
And we certainly aren't terrified of anything that we've seen so far.
Dave Nichols' phenomenal success doesn't last.
It's got too much coffee, huh?
By slashing their prices, the 2 Goliaths, Coke and Pepsi, put this David in his place. Just this side of oblivion.
That's very nice. Take a little more coffee and you've got a winner.
Like so many other Coke imitators, Nichols still thinks the way to beat the cola giants is with a better formula.
That hasn't got a chance.
Unfortunately for Nichols, the company he's trying to beat not only has a secret formula, but a marketing budget big enough to sponsor the Centennial Olympic Games.
It's not there.
105.7 FM.
If you don't listen to WGST,
640 AM.
You'll miss the Olympics.
Atlanta's official Olympic information radio station.
One of the ironies of modern corporate culture is that some of the largest, most successful corporations, like Coca-Cola, may actually outlive the American culture, which it has used as the basis for its selling. Because unlike the United States, Coca-Cola now has a global footing. The problem ultimately with Coca-Cola culture isn't whether it's good or bad, whether it's tawdry or elegant. The problem is that it tends towards monopoly, uniformity, and homogenization, and therefore a uniform world culture in which everybody's more or less the same.
In July of 1996, the Coca-Cola-sponsored torch that months earlier began its run across America nears its final destination. In Coca-Cola Plaza, the citizens of Atlanta, along with the rest of the world, wait in anticipation.
And then the host country, the United States.
Coca-Cola has spent hundreds of millions of dollars in advertising at the Olympics. Now, it's payback time. Over the next 2 weeks, billions of people worldwide will tune into the games. They'll see the world's best athletes doing amazing things. And they'll see the Coke logo everywhere. It's the greatest advertising orgy of all time.
I declare open the Games of Atlanta, celebrating the 26th Olympiad of the modern era.
Since the early days of the patent medicine men a century ago, thousands have tried to find the magic formula that would supplant Coke as the world's supreme beverage. Perhaps here, far away from Atlanta, in the back alleys of Shanghai, one of those dreamers is succeeding. Like Coke's inventor, John Pemberton, Dr. Kan Xiaoqing is searching for the ideal brain tonic, his golden elixir. With dye flour, jade butterfly, spring chrysanthemums, sugar and water, Dr. Kan is brewing a drink for the 21st century. It's delicious and refreshing, and it'll cure what ails you.
I am drinking Coca-Cola now. On the level, I'm a little devil. Oh, mother, you wouldn't want me home. Cannibals compared to me are mild. I'm no more your peaceful little lamb. I shave most every day just like a man. I've thrown away my...
As the Atlanta Olympics comes to a close, the Coca-Cola Company sees its investment pay off handsomely. In the Olympic year, Coca-Cola's sales topped $18 billion, more than the gross national product of most of the nations taking part in the Games.
Georgia, Georgia.
The company expanded to nearly 200 countries and increased its market value by 40%. Throughout the world, Coke is outselling Pepsi by more than 2 to 1, and private label colas are no longer a threat. The year after the Olympics, Roberto Goizueta dies. He has transformed Coca-Cola from a successful American enterprise to a global empire. But Coca-Cola's unquenchable thirst is still not satisfied. There are 3 billion people in the world who prefer coffee, tea, or water. And the Coca-Cola Company is working hard to change that.